Questions 1 through 10 on the 2006 Grade 10 AMC 10B. What is negative 1 to the power of 1 plus negative 1 to the power of 2 plus plus negative 1 to the power of 6? Now this question, what happens is that each of these will result in a value that cancels the other one out beside it. So for example, the first one is negative 1. The second one is positive 1. You see what happens? And then if you keep going, you'll just keep getting the same kind of scenario, that you'll have negative 1 plus 1 and then so on. It just keeps on going until the final two, which would be, of course, negative 1 and positive 1. Another way of looking at this is that anytime the exponent is an odd number, negative 1 to the power of an odd number is negative 1. And anytime the exponent is an even number, negative 1 to the power of an even number is 1. So in this case, you've got 2006 as the total number of powers, and half of them, 1003, are even, so all of those give 1003 times 1 as a sum, and the other half, the other 1003 exponents, give 1003 times negative 1 as a sum. And if you add these, it's 0. So regardless of the way you look at it, the sum is going to be 0 for number 1. And therefore the answer is C. For real numbers x and y, define x symbol y equal to x plus y times x minus y. What is this expression? So first let's just do the 4 symbol 5 like that. Whatever, I'm not going to try to attempt to draw what that is. And this looks like, if you use this definition, 4 plus 5 and then 4 minus 5, correct? So that's 9 times negative 1, which is negative 9. So then this expression essentially has now become 3 symbol negative 9. And if you again use our definition, that would be 3 plus negative 9, which is 3 minus 9, times 3 minus 9, which would be 3 plus 9. So this looks like negative 6 times 12, and that is negative 72. So number 2, the answer is A. A football game was played between two teams, the Cougars and the Panthers. The two teams scored a total of 34 points, and the Cougars won by a margin of 14 points. How many points did the Panthers score? So the key in this question is that the Cougars won by a margin of 14. So that means their score was the Panthers' score plus 14. And then they tell you also that the total score, Panthers and Cougars, is 34. So there you go. Those are the two equations. So solving, let's see, let's substitute for C. That would mean P plus C, which is P plus 14, is equal to 34. So that means 2P is equal to 20, and therefore P is equal to 10. So number 3, the answer is A. Circles of diameter 1 inch and 3 inches have the same center. The smaller circle is painted red, and the portion outside the smaller circle and inside the larger circle is painted blue. What is the ratio of the blue painted area to the red painted area? The smaller circle is painted red, so this is going to be all red, like that. And then the other part of the diagram is blue, so it's going to be painted blue like that. So in this question, we have to figure out the ratio blue over red. Okay, so the blue, the area is the big circle minus the small circle. So I'm going to use big R and little r. And then the red part is just the area of the small circle. And that's it. Now we have to make sure that we plug in the correct values for the radius. And before I put in values for radius, I notice that the pi's all cancel. So this just becomes r squared minus small r squared over small r squared, like that. All right, let's now put in the radius values. So the big R is going to be 3 over 2 because the diameter is 3. Small r is a half because that diameter is 1. And there you go. That's your equation. So this is 9 over 4 minus a quarter over a quarter. And that looks like 8 over 4. Invert and multiply, and you'll get 4 over 1. And that is just 8. So number 4, the answer is D. A 2 by 3 rectangle and a 3 by 4 rectangle are contained within a square without overlapping at any interior point, and the sides of the square are parallel to the sides of the two given rectangles. What is the smallest possible area of the square? So we got 2 by 3, so 1, 2, 3, approximately something like this. It's a rectangle, and I'll just denote these lines to sort of represent that this is a 2 by 3. And then in a very similar way, we've got a bigger one. We've got this time a 3 by 4. And these two have to sort of sit on top one another, and we have to somehow make a square. So how do I do that? So something like this, right? Some sort of a scenario like that, where we've got the sides of 2 here, 3 here, this is 3, and from here to here is 4. Now they're saying, what's the biggest possible square that can be made? Well, if it's a square, the side already is 5, so they want you to figure out the smallest possible area. So let's just keep it at 5. Let's not go any bigger than that. Let's see if we can make a square. That means this side has to be 5 also. So it's got to extend a little bit beyond the 4. And then we just close out the square like that. And if we do, that will allow you to make a square that is 5 by 5. Correct? If this is 5, then that's got to be 5 as well from here to here. And I think that's the smallest possible square that we could make to fit in those two rectangles. And therefore, the area is going to be 5 times 5, which is 25. So number 5, the answer is B. A region is bound by semicircular arcs constructed on the sides of a square, whose sides measure 2 over pi, as shown. What is the perimeter of this region? The perimeter is going to be this area that I'm drawing in red here. So just don't get confused by all the different colors. The perimeter is just the outside. Now, when you look at that, quickly you'll see that the perimeter looks like semicircles, but there's 4 of them. So 4 times a semicircle. Now the perimeter of a circle is just the circumference, so the perimeter of a semicircle is circumference over 2. So 4 times circumference over 2, which is essentially just 2c, and that is going to be my perimeter, P. If I can figure this out, I've got the answer. Now, perimeter is equal to 2c, but what is c? C is circumference, right? And the circumference is equal to pi times the diameter of any circle. And they tell you that the sides of the square are equal to 2 over pi, right? So from here to here is 2 over pi. Now that side represents the diameter of the circle, of each of those semicircles. So 2 times pi times d, and the diameter is going to be 2 over pi. And therefore, this looks like it just becomes 4. So number 6, the answer is D. Which of the following is equivalent to this expression when x is less than 0? So we've got x over 1 minus x minus 1 over x, all under the square root sign. Okay, so let's start with the bottom here. This looks like top and bottom by x, so this becomes x minus x plus 1, so just be careful there, all under the square root sign. So this becomes x over 1 over x. Invert and multiply x over 1 times x over 1. And this looks like x squared under the square root sign. Now at this point, you think, okay, square root of x squared is just x. Circle B and move on, correct? But that's the wrong answer. You say, well, why is it the wrong answer? I mean, it makes perfect sense to me, because you have to read the question carefully. They give you this when x is less than 0. Less than 0. And that is a little tricky, I guess, and it leads to the wrong answer if you don't read that part of the question. So, for example, x is less than 0, right? So let's say x is negative 5. If that is the case, what happens here? Let's see. Negative 5 squared, all under the square root sign. Negative 5 squared is 25. Square root of 25 is 5. Well, I got 5, and the answer is different than just x. It's negative x. Negative x. And that is true only when x is less than 0. So number 7, the answer is A. The square of area 40 is inscribed in a semicircle as shown. What is the area of the semicircle? So let's draw a line from what I believe is the center of the semicircle to that point right there. All right? And then we can progress with this question. Now this square has an area of 40. So if this, for example, is x, and that of course is x, it's a square, that means that x squared is equal to 40, since that's how you calculate the area. And that would mean that x is equal to the root 40, like that. Okay? And therefore, since this is essentially x over 2, x divided by 2, that would be equal to root 40 over 2. And then we can get a Pythagorean relationship in that triangle, and this red line represents the radius of that semicircle. So that means that r squared is equal to x squared plus x over 2 all squared, like that. So x squared is going to be 40. X over 2 squared is root 40 over 2 all squared. So that becomes 40 plus 40 over 4, which is 10. And therefore r squared is 50. Okay? And then now the area of the semicircle, well, the area of a circle is pi r squared. The area of a semicircle would be pi r squared divided by 2. So pi times r squared, which I just calculated, is 50, divided by 2. And that is 25 pi. So number 8, the answer is B. Francesca uses 100 grams of lemon juice, 100 grams of sugar, and 400 grams of water to make lemonade. There are 25 calories in 100 grams of lemon juice and 386 calories in 100 grams of sugar. Water contains no calories. How many calories are in 200 grams of her lemonade? So 100 grams of lemon juice, LJ, and lemon juice is different than lemonade. I just want to make that point because it might get slightly confusing otherwise. 100 grams of sugar and 400 grams of water. And this total is 100 plus 100 plus 400, 600 grams total. And they tell you in terms of calories, see, lemon juice has 25 calories for 100 grams. And for sugar, 100 grams, it's 386. And then water is 0. So the total calories looks like 411. All right? So we've got a little bit of a relationship. 600 grams over 411 calories. And that is the ratio. Now, they tell us that they want us to figure out the number of calories in 200 grams of lemonade. All right, I'll represent that as x. So this is my mathematical equation for this question. If you do the math here, you'll get, let's see, 411 cross multiply 200 is 600x, and then x would be 411 times 200 over 600. So that means this looks like 411 divided by 3, and that is 137. And that is how many calories are in 200 grams of her lemonade. So number 9, the answer is B. In a triangle with integer side lengths, one side is 3 times as long as the second side, and the length of the third side is 15. What is the greatest possible perimeter of this triangle? So here is a triangle, and let's label this. I'll call this side 15, I'll call this side x, and I'll call this side 3x, based on what information they've given me in the question. Now they want you to figure out the greatest possible perimeter. Now to figure this out, we have to understand a fundamental rule with regard to triangles. Very simple. And that rule is that if you have a triangle with 3 sides, say those sides are A, B, and C, in any triangle there's a rule that A plus B must be greater than C. That's the only way a triangle can be made. The sum of 2 sides must be greater than the other side. So we'll use that fundamental rule on this triangle right here. So that basically means, in any kind of order, but I'll just use 15 plus x, and that would be greater than 3x. All right? Rearranging this, you get 15 is greater than 2x, and that means x is less than or equal to 15 over 2, which means x is less than 7.5. Now they tell you that the triangle has integer side lengths. So the largest x can possibly be in terms of an integer is 7. So therefore the greatest possible perimeter will be obtained using our greatest possible value of x, which is 7. So the perimeter is x plus 3x plus 15, and that looks like 4x plus 15, and then x, the largest possible integer value is 7, so substitute that in, and that gives you 28 plus 15, which is equal to 43. So number 10, the answer is A.